All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, I'm D Squinkifer,
And I'm Zoyander Street.
and you're here for Intrinsink, building an open source interactive theater web app. So I'll be talking about the history of Intrinsink and giving an overview of its features.
And I'll talk a little about design considerations that come up with this format of interactive online performance.
But first things first, before we get started, please make sure to open up a web browser and visit squinky.github.io/NarraScope 2025. So we've posted that link in a variety of places, so hopefully you all have access to it. And
I like
once you
the
do
I like the a variety of places though. I think we should have next time we do this, we should have a magician in the room who can be like, oh, and if you open your bag, you'll find it written on the back of a playing card.
yeah, we should have taped it to the bottom of your chairs or something.
Yeah,
All right. Well, once you have that link, you'll be able to vote on which topic we'll cover next. And it's also how we're going to take your Q&A questions at the end, but we'll get to that later. So for now, let's just take a moment to wait for your votes to trickle in. Okay, I see some votes.
cool, good.
All right. Yeah. All right, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and go with the highest voted one, which looks to be about the history of the project. So, it's a great place to start, by the way. Back in 2014, I created an interactive theater project for my MFA called Coffee a Misunderstanding. Some of you in the audience who were around back then may remember it. But for those of you who don't, here's the gist. So basically, what I did was write an interactive play with a branching narrative centered around two characters, each of whom would be played by an audience volunteer reading lines prompted to them from a phone. Meanwhile, members of the audience were able to select from different options for what the characters would do next. The story was essentially about parasocial relationships and awkwardness, hence why having the actors be random people looking at their phones worked perfectly. But it was also about figuring out gender feelings, something that was very much on the forefront of my mind at the time. So, of course, the people who most fondly remembered this show were also trans folks, some of whom didn't even consciously know they were trans until they played it. Which, as one of those militant artists furthering the trans agenda, is probably the best compliment anyone could ever give me about my work. Needless to say, I'm quite proud of what I did here. Anyway, fast forward to 2021, right at the height of COVID lockdowns. Zoyander approached me asking if I'd want to apply to a British Canadian arts grant called New Conversations to adapt Coffee a Misunderstanding to a video call format. And I liked this idea a lot. But I didn't just want to straight up adapt something that felt so rooted in 2014 and that very specific time and headspace I was in. So I suggested doing something that was more of a spiritual sequel. So I ended up building a whole new project that was a lot more robust than what I had for Coffee and Misunderstanding back in the day. This time, instead of everyone needing to be in the same room, you'd be able to connect to the show from anywhere with an internet connection. Zoyander wrote a short script about the various awkward foibles of video chatting, which we'd all gotten so intimately familiar with in lockdown purgatory, and we called it Video Call Calamity. From there, Zoyander continued iterating on story concepts using this format, which would coalesce into Intrapology, a queer sci-fi series about alien anthropologists that I am also acting and writing and doing a variety of things on. You can find out more about that by visiting intrapology.com. Meanwhile, as we've continued working on Intrapology, we've also spun off a version of the software as an open source project that artists can use in their own interactive plays, hence Intrinsink. All right. Let's have some votes trickling in.
They have such good hold music for this conference. We should have found a way to borrow it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wonder if that's like public domain or something, or is it just specifically a Discord thing? Does somebody get royalties every time it's played?
Oh, if only. I hope that's the case.
All right. I think we have enough votes. So next up is talking about positioning the audience. Over to you, Zoyander.
I'll keep my notes on this topic brief because I can imagine that the people gathered here for this event have really valuable insights and reflections on it. Our format somewhat disrupts the established expectations about the position of the player, particularly thinking about it from a game design perspective. I think immersive theatre folks are more used to thinking about the position of the audience like differently with every new piece of work that they create. Like even literally in traditional theatre, thinking about the position of the audience literally in the space affects the way that a piece works in the room. My own standard for this has been set by role-playing games. I'm used to thinking of the player character as the main agent of action. I'm used to first or second person address, which both imply that by making a choice, the player is saying, I would do this, or I want to say this. I'm also somewhat used to believing that with each choice, I'm steering the development of a character in one way or another. Having said that, I think the character development side is one of the first things to go when game design is pared back to focus on narrative when you're reducing the scope of your game in an indie game. After all, a small indie game will typically offer much less time to experience character development compared to AAA experiences. Kentucky Route Zero is a key example that I often point to for this and other ways that interactive narrative can move beyond games as goal-oriented endeavors. So when you have very little time and it's really about how you're gonna occupy this space in this moment. In any case, the relationship between the player and the character changes in our format. And as writers in this format, we have to decide early on whether to address the audience directly and how. So in 2023, I consulted on another project that used their own software, but similarly altered a live performance online based on audience votes. And in that project, the writer chose to create a character whose main role was to communicate with the audience directly. And I thought this was very effective, and it is something that I would generally recommend to others. In Intrapology, I've set myself this slightly annoying constraint that I want to position the audience as the context that shapes who the characters are. I think our format offers an opportunity to explore what it means to act as a collective rather than solely as an individual, and what it takes to view yourself as an individual as part of a collective. And I think we still have a lot of work to do on how to make a remote audience aware of their identity as a collective when the other people are not in the room with them.
All right. Now let's select the next topic.
Uh,
See the votes trickling in.
Good, good. I'm glad. Yeah.
All right, I think we have a winner. Um, so now we're on to Intrinsic's technical features. So Intrinsink is basically an app that allows the audience to vote for multiple choice options in real time during a performance, like you've been doing so far. There's also a write-in text box that actors can read out loud at key points. This, by the way, is what we'll be using for Q&A. The front end of Intrinsink is a React web app, which has a few different views. So there's the default audience view, which is what you are looking at on your screens right now. During performances of Intrapology, we have a video embed in the audience view, and we do a thing where we style the UI so that it looks like the main character's computer. It's pretty cool. So yeah, visit intrapology.com for some cool examples of that. And there's also a video caller view, which feeds the actors their lines in real time and can also be used for things like sound and video cues. And now I'm going to show you what that setup looks like on my screen. Do a little screen share. All right. Script over here, and it's right next to the Discord, so I can see all your lovely faces. And and when I advance to the next line, it shows me the next line. So, yeah. There is also a view for the moderator, which I am going to show you right now on my other screen. So here we can do various things, like click to advance each line. Ta-da! And manage other states of the performance, such as writing messages in real time to the audience. So we've got a little current audience message thing here, and I can just type in something random. Any suggestions? All right, I'll just go meow, and now you should all see meow. Yeah. For a moment, I forgot I don't have the chat window open.
Oh, I was about to say I could pick the book nearest to me and pick what's written on a random page, but it's
do that.
Proust. It's Proust, and I hate this guy.
Oh.
But the top of this page says, "That is to say, next to nothing."
There we go.
Ooh, this is clever. Forsaken by the very man who was so afraid of their forsaking him. Yeah, there's a random message.
Okay, can you repeat that?
Forsaken by the very man who was so afraid of their forsaking him.
I don't. I keep forgetting whether there is an e in between the for and the saking, but whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so we've also got like a current a list of the upcoming choices, and we can click these force choice buttons to automatically go to them, which I am not going to do right now. And some other buttons that make me start things over, which I am also not going to do right now. But anyway, I'm going to stop sharing this screen and continue with the talk. So the script for each performance, including this very script right now, is written in ink by Inkle Studios, which we love because a lot of people are already familiar with it. Maybe you are too. It's great. And it's really nice to not have to reinvent the wheel and just be able to use something that already exists and does branching choices and cool stuff with text and keeps track of states and all that. So, yes, we love ink. Um, so, to keep track of the current state of a performance on the server side, so that you can all access the same thing at the same time, we use a real time database. Um, at the moment, we're using Firebase, but at some point, we're thinking of migrating to something else that isn't owned by Google. Wouldn't that be nice? At the moment, we don't save any persistent data from performances, so we can just basically delete everything in the database after a performance is finished, which I kind of like because it feels particularly ephemeral in the way that, like, going to a one off theater performance does. Like, it's never going to be the same each time. Um, but this might change in the future. We've thought about things like making people log in with accounts for security because that may be necessary at some point. So right now, you're watching us directly on Discord, but as I kind of like alluded earlier, for Intrapology and other performances, we typically do a thing where we run a Zoom call through OBS so that we can add subtitles, pre-recorded video, and other cool audio-visual effects. And then we stream the video directly on the page using that like UI that looks like the main character's computer. And I will also add that Intrinsink also works in an in-person theater setting, though it does need everyone in the room to have a robust internet connection. In that regard, it's pretty similar to other games where people gather in a room together and play on their phones. Like one example I can think of is Jackbox games. I'm sure there are others. Anyway, next topic. We have only two choices to choose from now.
That's flown by.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and we've got 10 minutes left. All right, so I'm just going to go on ahead, and now we're going to talk about timing. Over to you,
Good.
Zoyander.
I'm excited to talk about this. So one of the biggest mindset shifts from thinking about indie games and twine games and like text-based interactive fiction has been having to think about time differently. My past experiences with interactive dialogue, I've always assumed that a player's choices will have an immediate effect. But guess what happens if you apply that way of thinking here? Super awkward pauses! This can be interesting when used in moderation, but when every choice is like this, it becomes quite grating. Waiting for a vote result before performing a line is really awkward. Even with no lag due to the streaming platform itself, like right now, we don't have a lot of lag. There's not a lot of lag on Zoom or on Jitsi. But if you're broadcasting rather than just sticking to a video call, the lag can be as much as 20 seconds. We use YouTube's fastest setting, which is 5 seconds. This means that an extra consideration must be made for the timing of audience prompt. So we need to introduce questions earlier in the script than the point where a decision is made. And we need to work with actors to get comfortable with silencers, and any dialogue that happens while options are on screen needs to supplement those options without being too consequential to ignore. And based on an audience vote, I'll unpack one of those a little more.
Oh,
You
still
good?
awkward pauses. But yeah, we've got a tie right now. Let's see.
Oh, fun.
Let's see if we can break the tie. Oh, I think we've broken the tie. Let's do it.
Cool. Um, so we should ensure that dialogue taking place during the voting is not too consequential to ignore. So in this example, while when the voting started, I was still unpacking what the options were a little. So if you didn't catch part of what I was saying, but you understood what was written on the screen, you still would have been able to grasp what was going on.
We have one last scripted thing to cover, which is glitch management.
Okay. So no software works 100% of the time, and crash management is always going to be a consideration. On the technical side, we've made a lot of progress increasing our reliability. We just did a show on Sunday that had no glitches whatsoever. But here, I'll talk about the design or dramaturgical aspect because I honestly don't know how Squinky's achieved that the level of stability that we're at. I couldn't comment on it at all, but I'm really happy with where we're getting to with it. We so we need to provide the moderator the ability to skip forward if the app is reset. So pre-prepared stream content can help give the team some breathing room to solve problems when something does stop working. And actors also need to be able to respond smoothly in a situation when the app has stopped delivering new lines to them.
All right. I'm just gonna go ahead.
Awesome, thanks. So working with actors who are practiced in improv is a good way forward. Actors also benefit from knowing their characters very, very well and having a strong sense of what their character's motivation is. So even if everything is functioning as intended, the actors are still operating in quite a wide possibility space, and they have to be able to respond in a way that feels true to the character. And that's true in scripted moments as well as improvised ones. In the case of our sci-fi series Intrapology, we also lampshade the technical unpredictability of the tools that we're using as part of the world building. And this is maybe just part of a more general artistic principle of having a unity between form and content, or making use of medium-specific qualities.
Anyway, that's it for our scripted content. Now it's time for a few minutes of Q&A. So you should now be able to see a text box in the web app, so please feel free to write in any questions, comments, complaints that you may have, and I'll read them out and we'll answer them. All right. So first off, we have, is this available for people to use slash try out now? Yes, it is. If you go to, I believe it's intrapology.com slash software, we'll paste in a link in a bit. My hands are a bit tied at the moment, so I can't do it myself, but Zoyander, if you'd like to do it,
Yeah, I'll do it.
please, yeah. All right. In the meantime, I will answer the next query, which is you said something really interesting earlier, managing the state of a performance. I think this is quite a novel concept, treating interactive theater as essentially a collection of microservices, like some unholy IRL Kubernetes. One of the issues another talk brought up is solving for the phone as an omni device, avoiding doom scroll, etc. You have to fight with the phone to not steal your audience's attention to other places. Is there a way to manage state of the performance without a phone? I imagine maybe bespoke uni devices like a voter controller or, oh, IDK, a microphone that picks up cheer volume for voting, or something else. Have you have you any other examples of this? And if so, how practical is this idea?
Coffee and
Um,
Misunderstanding would be an example of this.
yes. So what I did there was in like so I did some performances that used people's actual phones and devices at first, but then because of some funding from my grad school, I decided to just get my own devices that were not connected to the internet itself, but only connected to a local server that was being run from my computer. And then I would just hand those devices out to the audience. And so that was one of the solutions, which wouldn't work for this necessarily, but I mean, like it had to like basically one of the constraints is that like it has to be online, and so you have all of the internet, and so we have to trust people that people will like mute distractions accordingly. Zoyander, any
Yeah,
thought?
we might want to put that in our onboarding for the audience. That just the advice that you could put your phone into do not disturb mode, so that then you don't get a bunch of notifications during the performance. Because people have something that we think about a lot, particularly on the access side. We do a lot of thinking about accessibility. We work with access dramaturgs, Flip Flash to build in things like audio description. One of the kind of built-in access advantages of this software is that it creates subtitling automatically. Um, and and a kind of complicated access barrier people face is overwhelm. Um, and we're still learning how best to help people manage that. Um, and help people kind of even just like not feel worried about the degree of overwhelm that they're feeling. Because I think some people, when there's a lot going on and they're being asked to vote or like put in text options, they're like worried that they're missing out on something. So to kind of how to reassure the audience that they're not. And I think this might be part of the answer when it comes to like helping people manage overwhelm is communicating to them that like these are the features that your phone handset might have that will reduce the barrage of information that's getting thrown at you.
Hmm. Anyway, I believe it is now 12:30. Do we do we have to stop now, or do we have a bit of wiggle room, or I'm gonna open up the chat and see what's happening there. Oh, I see. Yes, you
Yeah,
saw
wiggle
the undefined
room.
-1 votes thing. I have no idea how that happened. But yay,
Yeah,
glitches are
but
fun.
it didn't. The glitches are fun. We've had negative number votes like quite often. It seems like it doesn't currently actually cause any problems. So that's great. Um, it's something to do with the something that I'm I've always been really grateful to Squinky that you put into this right from day one is the ability to change your choice as an audience member. Um, there was another project I was working on where they built their own thing, where they didn't have that. And I was just learning at that moment that this is actually a fundamental part of accessible design for the web. People have to be able to unclick something. It's really important. And so I was like, hey, we don't have the ability to change our choice in this. And the person who was building that software was like, yeah, that's because it's impossible to do that. And I'm like, it's clearly not. I didn't say anything, but I'm like, clearly not impossible because Squinky had no problem doing it whatsoever. But that was one of the moments where I realized that like there's a lot of learning that you've brought over from Copy and Misunderstanding that it feels so simple in the moment, but then when you realize that when you see other people not know the things that you know, it's like, oh right, that you like you legit built expertise in this many years ago that have like made this project so much easier.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go since we have time, I'm gonna keep going through the questions in the chat box. One is, what is your technical background that allowed you to create the app? Um, Basically, I have been designing and programming games since like Y2K or thereabouts. So I've just been I've just been doing this for a very long time. I yeah, so I have I did my undergrad in computer science, and that was back in like 2008, where we were like programming in Java and yeah, not JavaScript, but Java. So, but yeah, I've worked various jobs and coded in various things, and I am not like a very very deep expert in anything, but I just know a little bit about a lot of things, and I'm the kind of I have the kind of brain where if I it's like if I have a very specific thing I want to do, I will figure out everything about making that specific thing. um and again so a lot of the usability stuff that Zoyander was talking about are just yeah, trial and error things I learned by experience. And I guess and as somebody who's been doing it for a while, sometimes the most positive feedback is when nobody says anything at all, because the experience is just that frictionless. I mean, that's not to say that friction isn't necessarily useful, and can be a good thing in many instances, but having friction be intentional rather than unintentional is a very good thing indeed. Next question is, are there any aspects of Ink's language that you are not using currently but want to use in the future? And following that with, yes, why ink instead of twine or something else? Basically, the answer to the second question is because ink was pretty much designed to slot into any other kind of app or software you're doing. There's an Ink.js library for JavaScript. There's a Unity library. There's a Godot library that I've used in my Godot projects. There's Binksy, which I've used in another project, which is basically ink in Bitsy, or actually Bipsy, but yeah. So if you want to do a Bitsy with ink, there is a tool for that as well. Um, as for yeah, Zoyander, do you have any other thoughts on
Yeah.
this?
Um, yeah, uh Ink was your choice, but I was really happy that we were using it because I was already using it for my project, Cis Pennon. Um, which is interactive. It's an interactive documentary based on interviews with transgender people around the UK. So I was already thinking in ink as a writer. Um, and I mean, it's incredibly powerful. Like there are so many different things that it does. Like we've run two different R&D projects where we commissioned artists to make their own original pieces using our software. And 50% of the time when people ask, can you do such and such, we can say yes because Ink already does it. Like it gives you such a larger toolkit compared to like building something from scratch. Or my experience with Fine has been a lot of the things that Ink does built in, you had to like you'd have to bring something else in to try and do it. And whereas Ink, like it's just like one line because it's already there. In terms of like features that we're not currently using that I want to use in the future, this is a really simple one, but I'm kind of curious about what it would be like to play with like just numerical variables a bit more than we do. Um, it's not really in the voice of the show right now to be like, oh, this person's stress level just went up by 5 points or something like that. But I can imagine quite interesting things coming out of that, especially if you want to do something that's like critiquing like the kind of quantified society that we live in to begin with. I can see that the juxtaposition of the like ineffable humanness of live actors performing something with, oh, this number just went up. Like, yeah, I can see that being really interesting.
Yeah,
I will
we were
quickly answer
actually
the
talking.
next.
Oh, go ahead. I
Oh,
just
I
wanted to
was.
do an aside where,
Go ahead.
yeah, like, we were originally thinking about a version of this talk where, like, we could have people like control the evilness. So like, so it's like if you increase the evilness, we would just sound more and more like tech bros, but that proved to be a bit out of scope.
Yeah, we already have enough on our plates writing episode 4. Um, so our next performance is on the 20th of July. Um, and so we do have set dates to tune in remotely for the live performances. We do also have archived recordings. Just on intrapology.com. If you scroll down, there's archived recordings of episodes 1 and 2. And also the play script itself in a very simple HTML output from Ink, so that you can read the different versions of the show that could have happened. And we'll put up episode 3 really soon because it went so smoothly. The editing is going to be really easy. So yeah, it's not going to take long to get episode 3 up now.
And it's also my acting debut.
It is, and you were phenomenal. A friend of mine was like, "What's it like working with Squinky as an actor rather than like all the other disciplines?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was so easy that like the last rehearsal before the performance, you got let off an hour early because there was nothing, there were no notes."
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's been real nice to like get back into acting in my late 30s. Like post transition. Yeah. Anyway, what software did you use that created subtitles in real time automatically for accessibility? That seems helpful to know about. Well, actually, it is the script that we wrote in ink, showing up at key points.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
The view that we have, that the actors have, that we've had to deliver the presentation, um, is using the exact same data that goes out as subtitles. Um, so it's really easy for us to incorporate subtitles. We don't need an extra piece of software to do that.
yeah. All right, next question. Can you talk more about the OBS workflow? Are you using plugins or custom tools? You bring in all the video, audio signals in and then send it out to YouTube Live or something?
That is basically yeah, the gist of it.
Yeah.
We uh, One of the big challenges we've had this year is that the OBS, we don't have the OBS skills like in house. So we had one technician managing our OBS for a while who was fantastic. And then because he's fantastic, he's in really high demand and is no longer available. And we had a really difficult period where we couldn't find anyone who already had the skills that we needed, which seems very odd to me because like a lot of people stream, but it was really hard to find someone who was like, "Yep, I know my OBS well and would love to step in on a project like this." We did eventually get connected with a company called Transcend Streaming, which is a trans-led company based in New York, and they did our OBS for the last performance, and it was an absolute dream. Like they have all of the skills that we could possibly require, and more. I'm going to do
And they
everything I
provided all
can
these
to keep them.
custom tools that
Yeah.
like made everything just go so quickly and smoothly.
Yeah, like even the way that they take in the video signals from the video call is like way better than anything we've experienced before. Like they're using a plugin that makes it incredibly easy.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was great experience. Learned about a lot about OBS in the meantime. Anyway, moving on. What advice do you have for beginning game designers without a computer science degree? Where do we start? Yeah, you don't really. I mean, as somebody who has a computer science degree, you don't really need one, I don't think, especially now with like so many cool tools out there. So, yeah, I just start by figuring out something you want to make and just building it. Ideally try and make it like the smallest version of the thing you want to make, because you don't want to go like too big too hard on your first project. But yeah, play with a tool like Bitsy. It's just like really easy to get started on. When I teach first time game design classes, Bitsy is one of my favorite go-tos. You can make something in Twine. That's another go-to I have used a lot of in my time. Um, like if you want to jump right into a bigger game engine, I really like Godot. Um, find some tutorials, follow along with them. Yeah,
Yeah,
Zoyander
I
and
don't have a computer science degree. All my degrees are in the humanities. And yeah, the tools are great, and there's it's so there's so much there that could be your entry point, and I think sort of sampling a little bit of lots of different options and finding something that captures your imagination is important, rather than thinking, oh, I need to do Unity because everything's in Unity. Like Unity never really got me. Um, Whereas I
Computer.
love Pico 8 helped me a lot to get started because the editor is built into the whole thing, and it's you don't need to move away from Pico 8 to do anything. You can do the sound in there, you can do the sprites in there, so you can just sort of sit with it in quite a focused environment and um just stay within one program to make something small and cute. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the thing about like starting with something that's small enough, I think it took me at least 5 years to learn what small enough meant. It was 5 years of constantly having ideas and then having to scope down and then scope down again and then scope down again. And it was I'd been at it for a long time before finally I was able to picture, right, what is a project I can do in a week? What is a project I can do in a month? What is a project I can do with an art grant of less than £1,000? Like, and yeah, it took a long time to get there. I think that's actually an underrated skill.
Yeah, but I mean, like all this is to say, just jump in and start making stuff. It's literally never been easier to get started, which is
Yeah.
awesome and amazing. Next question is, are you on social media? Oh boy, where should we follow your work? Zoyander, why don't you start?
I am on social media. I prefer non-corporate social media to the corporate ones, but I am also on Instagram. If you go to zoyander.cc/follow, I'll put that in the chat. And all of my social medias are listed there.
Yeah. I'm still recovering from the horrific demise of Twitter. But yeah, you can yeah, if you visit squinky.me, there are links to all the things I do on the internet. There's a link to Soft Chaos, the worker co-op that I co-founded. There are links to my solo work. There's a link to Soft Chaos's blog on camaraderie, which is a it's a version of like Patreon or Substack that is itself a cooperative. And I believe one of the founders is at NarraScope at the moment. So if you see Ty, go say hello to them. And I have a Blue Sky account I barely post to. It is also squinky.me. Um, and yeah, but yeah, other than that, I use Discord. um, but yeah, and a couple more questions. Have you heard of a 20-sided tavern D&D show that uses live theater and a similar app interface?
Yes, in fact, the one of the founders of 20-Sided Tavern co-wrote episode 3. And yeah, Sarah Davis Reynolds is a big part of why episode 3 is so good. So yeah, we've heard of them. We worked with them. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And what other conferences and events like this awesome
Oh
event do
yeah.
you recommend? Squinky, I believe you have one.
Yes. So QGCon, the Queerness and Games Conference, is happening this September. And you can visit qgcon.org to learn more about that. It will be September 26th to 28th in Montreal, where I live. So if you want to check out all things to do with queerness and games, that is the place to be. Zoyander is
Um,
also a
and
former organizer.
I'm a former organizer of that, and that yeah had a massive impact on my practice being involved with that early on. And this year I am a co-chair of the IndieCade jury. So IndieCade, I must shout out IndieCade. Yeah. There's also a LARP festival coming to Sheffield, near where I live, um, late this year called Box. That's worth checking out for anyone who's in England. I'm not involved with it, but I respect them and I'm glad that they are here.
Oh, speaking of LARP festivals, there is one coming up in Minneapolis called Make a Scene, and my team at Soft Chaos is unfortunately not going to make it there in person because yes, that. We really wanted to, though. But we have been selected to debut a LARP that we wrote called Thunder Only Happens When It's Raining. And it is based on Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album.
I'm so glad you're making that. I've wanted something like that to exist for years. I'm so glad.
Yeah, we had our first play test earlier this month, and while there's still a lot of work to do, it's like yeah, there's definitely something really magical in here. Um, yeah, I've really been enjoying like LARP design and playing LARPs lately. It is just like this beautiful like merging of like games and theater that I love.
All right, we could wrap up there, I think.
I think so. Seems like a good place to stop. If you want to
Yeah,
chat with us more, I will check our This Talks channel on the Discord. But yeah, other than that, have a great NarraScope, everyone.
yeah. Have a great time, everyone. Looking forward to listening to more of the talks.